Are you a business owner or employee who needs to network but is terrified of walking into a room full of people you don't know? Are you afraid of being left out of conversations or being awkward in the conversations you do have? Your tour guide, Faithann, is here to walk alongside you through the networking terrain, offering tips and tricks to network with ease. She'll also bring insightful interviews with successful business owners who have used networking to expand their businesses. Building relationships is the heart of networking, and generosity is the cruise ship that will navigate you toward those important relationships for your business or career. Grab your sunscreen and suitcase. Faithann is ready. Are you?
Hello there, and welcome to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. I am your host, Faithann. I'm glad you found the show. Networking is providing opportunities for others that they would not have except for you, so that you have standing to ask for opportunities from those same people when you need them. How do we create opportunities for others? And how do we ask for those same opportunities? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. It's what I'm here for. Let's dive into episode 4. Episode 4, I Am the King. This is Tour 7 in the Networkers Tour Guide blog at thenetworkerstourguide.net. I am the king, not really. This article is all about how if we have to declare ourselves the king in a way that we are scared that people aren't going to believe us, then we've kind of lost our credibility. And when we network, we want to be real careful that we are not demanding people's respect, but that we're earning it. And when you earn people's respect, you don't have to remind them of your status or your authority. You've earned it through rapport, through listening, through genuineness, through authenticity. And then when people really want to know what you have to say and want to know you, boy, the path is very easy. If you're standing around declaring that people listen to you, as they did in Game of Thrones, which is what the idea of this episode and the article came from, then you're losing. This was in one of the episodes of Game of Thrones where Tywin Lannister is scolding his nephew because the nephew at the time was the king, and he said, "I am the king." And Tywin said, "If you have to go around declaring yourself the king, you're not the king." So how does this apply in a networking situation? I'm going to tell you a couple of situations where it applies, but first let me tell you what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you don't stand in your place of credibility. So standing in your place of credibility is well received by others. Declaring that you're the king of everything, a know-it-all, is not well received. I'm going to tell you 4 ways you can stand in your place of credibility as you network and as you move people from just being curious about you and your business to when they're interested in perhaps working with you. How do you stand in your place of credibility in those situations? And then we will take those same instances and I'll talk about how you do not need to declare yourself to be king in an obnoxious way. First, let's talk about standing in your place of credibility. When I think about networking, I think of about 4 ways you can do that. The first way you do that is when people ask you what you do or the name of your business or who are you working with or who are you working for. This is a great time to have a really good sentence that creates curiosity, that lets people know that you are an expert in your field. Do stand in your place of credibility when you're answering that. So body language, tone of voice, everything should tell the person that you know what you're doing and that you are friendly and that you're easy to work with and that you are very good at what you do. What do you do? I guide people through difficult business conversations. I'm Faithann. I'm a tour guide, but instead of at a museum, I'm your tour guide for difficult business conversations, or I'm an author of a blog that helps people network better. So when I tell people that, I'm not going to be sheepish about that. So I'm standing in my place of credibility. Another instance where you can stand in your place of credibility is when you're actually delivering an elevator pitch, a more formal event where everybody gets maybe a minute or 30 seconds to stand up and tell the room about themselves. In some of the more formal networking meetings, this is actually the time where you tell the room who you're looking for in a referral. This is imperative that you stand in your place of credibility during those times. When you're having a one-to-one meeting with somebody and they're getting to know you, getting to know about your business, this is a great time to stand in your place of credibility when you're telling them how you've helped people. You're telling client stories. I had a client and she was this, and after working with me, now she is that. She's better off. I helped her achieve this result. No need to be sheepish or shy about telling others your client stories. You can stand in your place of credibility in those instances. And the last situation that I thought of where you stand in your place of credibility is when you've actually moved somebody from the curious stage. They're curious about you. You've seen them at a few networking meetings. You've spoken with them. You've had a one-to-one with them. You've learned about their business. They've learned about yours. And now they're ready to actually see if they want to work with you, which is a different meeting than a one-to-one meeting where we're just getting to know each other better, when we're understanding what people do, how they help their clients, and it's very reciprocal. I want to find out about you, you can find out about me, and we're just learning. That's your one-to-one meeting with those people that you network with, and then you've moved them to the next stage, which I talked a little bit about in episode 3 and episode 2. At some point, these people that you're getting to know might say, "Hey, Faithann, can we set up a time where I can actually ask you a little bit more about working with you? I want to sign up for your program, or I want to hire you to help me sell my house. I want to hire you to fix my website," or whatever it might be. Now we're in an official sales conversation. I want to read from my blog because I just like the way I worded this. So now we're in this sales conversation. So this is on the blog at thenetworkerstourguide.net, Tour 7. Imagine you've moved someone in your network from curious about you to now considering working with you. Well done. Proceed with even more curiosity, not declarations. More of your sentences should end with question marks rather than exclamation points. You want to know if you can solve her problem. There's absolutely no need to drone on and on about how great you are. If you can't solve her problem, it doesn't matter how great you are. And you won't know if you can solve her problem unless you are asking questions and listening instead of declaring. That's real important in the sales process. And I don't purport to be a sales expert. And I have an expert, Nikki Rausch, with Your Sales Maven. I'll link her website in the show notes. Oh, she's fantastic. But when we're in that sales conversations, what you want to be doing is really asking a lot of questions. And you want to be learning if you can help that person, not demanding that they use you. I got a little sidetracked. That's more of listening to learn. But in standing in your credibility in these sales conversations that actually are real sales conversations, you can stand in your credibility by not shying away from letting people know your pricing, by acting quick on buying signals. If they're ready to buy, don't make them jump through a lot of hoops. Try and get all of their questions answered. Ask them meaningful questions, and then put forth to them what you think the best next step for them is. Don't be afraid to say, "I recommend that you choose this package," or I recommend that we work together in this specific way. I can help you, and this is what we will do together. So that's where you can stand in your place of credibility. My last thought on the standing in your credibility versus declaring that you are the king is that it may be that you meet someone at the networking meeting and they're just ready to go ahead and really find out about what you do because they have a need right then. So in all of my talk about one-to-ones and what they're for, I want to emphasize that it's not always the case that you need to have that first one-to-one with someone. So don't be afraid. If you think this person that you have been networking with is now wanting to find out about your business because they have a need for what you do. Don't think, well, we have to have this one-to-one first where we reciprocate and I learn about you and you learn about me, and then we can move into the sales one-to-one. By all means, if someone needs to list their house and you've met that person and they say, hey, I'm going to list my house, by all means, go ahead and have that type of meeting, because we don't want to frustrate people if they're ready to make a decision about using us. We want to be right there, ready, and give them all the information they need. So I want to encourage that, because I would hate for you to think that, oh, but I haven't had a one-to-one with this person yet. Is it okay? Of course it is. But what happens often is that especially if we're kind of new to the networking scene, maybe we've gone to a few networking meetings and we've talked, maybe let's say we're talked to Bob and he's in the trades and we are a website developer and Bob reaches out to have a one-to-one. Don't assume that means Bob's ready to have you build his website. So that one-to-one meeting would be to get to know you kind of thing. And the way you can tell is if it's kind of, you pay attention to the language when they reach out. We should have coffee sometime. We've been seeing each other at these networking meetings and I want to learn more about what you do. Wanting to learn more about you, that is really very much a networking one-to-one. Become curious about you. I want to know if I can refer you to my friends and family. I just want to get to know you better. That's usually what happens with networking type meetings. When you're invited for coffee, usually that's more of the flavor of those meetings. But then sometimes the person can be very interested in working with you right away, and you don't need to have that initial get to know you coffee. Now, if we go back through that list of 4 things, what we don't want to do is declare that we are the king in our networking situations. So back to the very first thing I said, when someone's asking you what you do, stand in your place of credibility. Now, to take it too far, it would be to just kind of word vomit all over the person who's asking. Oh, I'm a real estate agent and I am the top seller and I've done this and I've done this and I've done this. And you just go on this bragging merry-go-round, and then you don't ask them what they do. You don't appear to be very interested in what they do. That would be declaring, I'm the king. You must concede that I am actually the king. It's not a great way to win people over. In your elevator pitch, do stand in your place of credibility. Don't ever badmouth your competition in an elevator pitch. Let's say you're a travel agent and there's another travel agent who's just given their pitch. And you say, well, unlike some travel agents, I am better, because that's screaming, I am the king, and you're not really the king. So highlight what you do. When you are in a one-to-one, do stand in your place of credibility by telling those client testimonial stories with confidence and not being sheepish about that. But this is where you may have a tendency to want to start moving into a sales conversation too early. So that would be an example of declaring you're the king when you don't know if they're interested. It's that first one-to-one meeting. If it's coming from the networking situation, somebody you're networking with, and they've either asked you to have coffee or you're asking them, let's be really curious at that meeting about that person and not try and sell and pitch too early. And then the last situation, which I kind of alluded to, is that if you have moved somebody into the sales situation, conversation, see if you can help them, recommend what you think is the best course of action, but get there by asking questions and really seeking to understand if you do have the right solution for them. Well, that'll wrap up episode 4. Go network, my friend, and remember, any man who must say, I am the king, or any woman who must say, I am the queen, is no true king, is no true queen.
You've been listening to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast with Faithann Basore.
Share this episode with a friend, and be sure to come back next week for more networking tips and tricks from the Networkers Tour Guide.